It does, yeah.
Give me just a second.
We'll just go with yours.
Okay. Hopefully it'll stay alive. Hi, David Flynn.
That's what I like about it. You can reply to people.
Hi, Ari.
Okay.
Hi, Janice. We have a lot of commercials.
Hello, Tallahassee. I'm Renita Knight Lundy. I am your host. I'm sitting in for Reverend Don Tolliver today. Today I have with me Kim Ross with ReThink Energy Florida. And Kim is going to be here today to talk to us about a couple of issues concerning solar. Hello, Kim. How are you doing today?
Hi, doing great. Thanks for having me.
That's good. We're glad to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Kim.
Well, I was born and raised here in Tallahassee, and I got the bug about climate change and about renewable energy about 10 years ago almost.
Okay, great. Okay, now tell us about your company, your organization, ReThink Energy Florida.
So ReThink Energy Florida was founded back in 2010 out of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And we founded ourselves to become an education and advocacy group to help spread the word that renewable energy is possible and here now, and that we need to shift to it as quickly as possible, and to do education in all sorts of different ways. We do education of adults, so we offer workshops, we offer solar charger workshops, and then we also have education for children as well.
Okay. When you say renewable energy, can you give us a understandable definition of renewable energy?
Well, sure. So renewable energy is any type of energy that doesn't need to continually use down a source. So it's as opposed to fossil fuels typically, which will, there's only so much oil in the world, there's only so much gas in the world. Correct. So renewable energy uses an energy type of energy that will renew itself, that will keep going for as long as we know, without any need for further damage to the earth.
Okay, that's like the solar harvesting the sun.
That's right. So solar harvests the sun. The sun will be there for as long as we can imagine.
Okay.
And the wind and the water too.
Okay, great. Now you talked about camps, and tell us about your energy camps for kids.
Sure, absolutely. So we have a great program for kids. In the summer we offer Energy Camp. That's a 2-week-long program that kids can come and learn about all sorts of things around energy. It's not necessarily even just how we create electricity, but also how energy interacts with our food, how energy interacts with water and with waste. And it's 2 weeks of fun-filled activities. The kids barely know that they're learning, and we offer scholarships for people who can't afford them, and then we have it's a sliding scale. So that's what we do in the summer. In the fall, we have a science festival, and coming up this spring, we actually have a Energy Whiz Olympics where we race cars, and we do a solar cook-off where we cook for judges that judge based on both how they cooked and also how tasty the food is.
Okay, I think I'd like to come to the cook-off.
We're looking for judges. So.
Okay, well, count me in.
Right.
I'll be glad to come and do that. With your camp, do you all also work with other organizations to provide different camps for their kids? Sure,
absolutely. We not only have those 3 kind of major events that are events that we put on, but we have coordinators that are both there in the summer, but also throughout the year, so that we can go into schools and teach children about renewable energy there. We can go to after school and other camps as well.
Okay, great. Now, why should we rethink our energy choices?
So right now, Florida is something like 62% dependent on natural gas. There's very, very little dependence whatsoever on renewable energy. And whenever we are burning fossil fuels, we're putting more carbon into the atmosphere, and that in turn is heating up the earth, and that in turn is causing some significant damage that we're seeing. Even Hurricane Matthew that most recently came through had some ties with climate change, and it broke some records. It strengthened more than any more than any Atlantic hurricane had ever strengthened in 24 hours.
Correct.
And so those are kind of some of the damages that can be caused by climate change. So if we rethink our energy, we're the Sunshine State. We should be getting our energy, at least in large part, from the sun.
From the sun.
So we may as well do that now while we can, and while it's still a choice, and really push forward. And as we push forward, then that brings down the rates for everybody on solar, and it makes things a lot better. And then also for distributed generation, we're also taking back our own power, and we're taking back our own ability to produce our power, which is great.
Right. So in essence, Florida will be using what we got.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Okay. Now, we hear the term sustainable energy. Is that the same as renewable? Can those two words be used interchangeable? Or
Typically, some people might call sustainable energy something slightly different in that if it's not entirely renewable, some people might argue that nuclear would be sustainable, but it's not necessarily renewable. That's an entirely different conversation, isn't it?
Yes.
So, typically they're used interchangeably, but I would think of them as slightly different.
Okay. Now, we have this wonderful thing that we are, I guess, battling. You have those that are for and those that are not. Explain to us, if you can, about Amendment 1 and why we should vote no.
Okay, sure. So Amendment 1 says two things on the ballot. On the what it says you have the right to own solar, and it's going to put that into the Constitution. Now that sounds like a great thing overall. Oh, well, of course, you should have the right to own solar.
Correct.
But putting that into our Constitution is very similar to putting you have the right to own a car into the Constitution, or you have the right to own a house into the Constitution. It's just not necessary. We live in America. We have the right to own things. There's very few things that are actually in the Constitution about having the right to own.
Right.
So that's the first part. And then the second part is around subsidies.
Right.
And it says that non-solar customers shall not have to subsidize solar customers. That sounds pretty good overall, too. And that's the tricky part.
Correct.
Because actually, first, non-solar customers are not subsidizing solar customers. That's a fallacy that's being put into your mind. Oh, well, am I subsidizing somebody? No, I'm not. Nobody's subsidizing solar customers. Solar customers are putting it on the rooftops at their own will, and that's just not happening. And the second thing is that the utility companies, and they're the ones that are funding at $22 million the Yes Online campaign. That's why everybody sees these great ads on TV, because they have a lot of money behind them. Well, the utilities can then use that language to turn it on us, and to go ahead and charge a lot of money for solar owners every month. They can charge exorbitant fees every month to be able to hook up to the grid. And there are other ways that solar customers are already paying into the grid. That's not a necessary thing. And on top of that, of course, we're concerned about that. And most recently, there's been some news that say that they actually, individuals that are associated with that campaign have owned up to the fact that, yeah, they were trying to trick us into voting yes when we should be voting no if solar is in our best interest.
Okay. Can you explain in this? I think there's something attached or talked about the rollback metering. Can you explain that? Can you explain, I guess, the metering process and how it works when someone puts the solar on their house?
Sure, absolutely. So there are two options when someone puts solar on their house or their business. One is to get battery backup. That's not very cost effective right now, and that's a developing technology. Hopefully that'll be out and available and inexpensive in a few years. It looks like it might be. But the other option that most individuals choose is to connect to the grid, to go ahead, and they call that net metering. Okay. And so basically the utility then looks at how much energy you're producing during the day, but at night you're using energy from the grid. And so they net it out. They go back and forth. In some places, the meter actually goes forward and backwards to determine how much energy you're actually using that's on the grid. When you're net metering, when you're selling energy to the grid, you're actually selling it typically at wholesale rates. The utility doesn't have to buy it at the actual price that you pay when you. If you're a non-solar customer, so they actually make some money off of that deal. But beyond that, the net metering piece, that bothers the utilities. They really want to own the source of production. They want to be the ones that own it. And so as long as they want to be the ones that own it, then if you put solar on your house, or if I put solar on my house, then I'm kind of biting into their profit.
Okay,
And
right.
so that's why that bothers them, and that's why their goal is actually to roll back net metering.
Okay.
They want to make it not a viable option. And with Amendment 1, that's what they're doing. They're taking the first step toward rolling back net metering.
Okay, so if I put solar on my house, my meter goes backwards, and then at night I'm using the grid
And then your meter goes forward.
forwards. But at the same time, the energy I'm putting in the grid, they're getting it at a cheaper rate than they're charging me.
Yes, typically.
So
and every place is a little different, but typically.
Right. So in essence, they can be making money off of.
They make
The solar
money
customer.
off of your energy just as much as they make money when they buy it from a gas plant.
So it would make that question or that issue of subsidizing, making you say,
Yeah, there's a lot of ways.
You're making money off of the person with the solar, so there shouldn't be any subsidizing that's needed.
Right, absolutely. And then on top of that, if you look at your utility bill, then we have actually, not all of it is your electricity, or not all of it is
Correct.
your utilities in general. There are other fees and that sort of thing
Correct.
that are there that also help to pay for different aspects of our community services that we have. And again, this isn't really even something that needs to be in the Constitution. Let's say we got to where we had 50% of the public owned their own sources of energy, but they were still using the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe, at that point we'd need to charge, $10 extra a month or something to maintain it. It doesn't need to be in the Constitution.
Okay.
I'm sure that the utilities will take care of themselves as they go before the Public Service Commission.
Exactly. Now, in one of the commercials I see, they have a fireman that's in the commercial, and he talks about that with Amendment 1, that it would make it safer, solar safer, I guess, with the installation or what have you. Well, I work with Independent Green Technologies. Maybe I should be giving a shout out to them, but we put the solar on the airport. And one thing we had to deal with was we had to go through planning and zoning. We had to put it on there by code. So I'm not understanding that concept in that commercial, because we have guidelines that we have to go through.
Right.
Besides being licensed, we have plans.
There's a bunch of guidelines you have to go through.
Right.
There's a couple of solar companies, Independent Green Technology being one of them, Super
Mm-hmm.
Solar being another one that are in town. They go out and they have to get certified to be able to install solar. There's other people that do install solar, and they also have to get certified.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yes, you absolutely have to go through coding. You have to install disconnects. There's really no danger to any first responder from solar that there isn't from any other house.
Right.
We hope that they'll all stay safe,
Right.
but there's no additional danger there because of solar. So we're not sure what happened there. I know some firemen already that are very upset about that
Correct.
ruling and about that endorsement, and are asking for a retraction of that endorsement. But no, you have to go through all sorts of permitting. Here in Tallahassee, the permitting is especially tough, and you got to go through it, and you got to get engineer sign off and that sort of
Yes.
thing. So
Yes, we
it's
had to.
all safe. It's very safe.
We had to have we had to have it inspected by the city. The engineer had to come in and make sure that it was installed by code and by plans, and of course he had to draw them by code, and it was I had to get on that roof at the airport and leaning kind of in, keeping my balance, strapped in and everything, with planes flying and whatever. So
We're glad you did that.
so I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm not understanding this commercial, and we haven't had any fire threats with what we installed. So
No.
I was a little confused by that portion of that commercial, or by them using that commercial, because you're putting out some stuff that I think is a falsity.
It's another fallacy that is misinformation that's out there, and that's the problem with this amendment. The big problem with the money that's being spent on this amendment, there's so much misinformation out there, and I really appreciate being able to come on the air and explain some of that to your listeners. It's really critical.
And we appreciate you being here. Now, there is going to be something we'll be, and I'm saying we because I plan on being actively involved. 2017, are we allowed to mention or discuss what we might be doing in 2017
Oh, sure,
towards,
absolutely.
To maybe combating, if Amendment 1 gets in, something that we may be able to still as consumers?
Well, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So let me give a shout out just to one other thing first. I'm not sure what will happen if Amendment 1 gets in. I have some hope that it won't.
Me too.
And I would love for anybody to reach out to us at rethinkenergyflorida.org to reach out to be able to canvass their neighborhoods. We can create walk packets for people. We've got events going on if they look at our website all weekend long to try and defeat this thing.
Correct.
But moving forward, there is an amendment that we attempted to get on the ballot for 2016 that did not make it on the ballot. One that we're trying to get on now for the 2018 ballot. So we'll be ramping up those efforts again to get enough petitions signed that would allow consumers to put solar on their rooftops up to 2 megawatts and then sell it to their contiguous neighbors. Correct. Without having to go for the Public Service Commission. There's also, just like you mentioned, all those other regulations are still in place.
Right.
Florida is one of only 5 states that currently has monopolies for the utilities, where only the utility can sell you energy. I can't sell you even 1 kilowatt hour of energy. Right. So Florida is one of 5 states, and this would roll that back for small solar systems.
Okay. So, and we'll be looking forward to hearing about those efforts when the time, because we will definitely have you come back on and, explain those efforts to us as well, and how we can get involved, and because it's all about our pocket. It's all about us as consumers.
And that's critical, I think. Yeah.
Right.
And what we've seen is that as more and more solar goes on, that really reduces the energy rates for everybody, regardless of whether or not they have solar.
Exactly. So, and we thank you for coming. And is there any burning thing you want to tell us about Rethink Energy Florida, or about Kim Ross, or I hear you're going to be doing a press conference this week. Tell us about that.
So yeah, on Thursday at 11:30 in front of the courthouse, in front of the Leon County Courthouse, we'll have a press conference. We'll have several different individuals there. We're part of a statewide network of press conferences that are happening across the state. Okay. And we'll probably be announcing some recent endorsements that are happening here locally. Okay. So people can come on out to the courthouse at 11:30 on Thursday. Tomorrow night, out at the Clean Energy Technology Center, we're doing a phone bank where we're calling, and that's statewide. We call phone numbers that are statewide, so people can come out and help there. Saturday, we're doing canvassing Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday we'll be out at Souls to the Polls. Okay. To make sure that folks know about this amendment, about the trickiness of this amendment. Okay, that's great. So there are a lot of activities that you all are going to be involved in that, to get it out, why it's important for us to vote no on Amendment 1. So we're asking everybody to just think carefully, think about yourself and the importance that solar would play in with our environment, with our economy, because solar will create new jobs, and it will create a new trade where people can go back to work as well. So we're asking everybody to rethink it. Absolutely, and that's a good point. On the on the solar jobs. You know, a lot of people think that fossil fuel and, you know, shifting off of energy, off of one form of energy to solar will actually make people lose jobs, and that's just not true. It actually, there's 15 jobs created in the solar industry for every one job that's created in the fossil fuel industry. So the jobs are actually in the up and coming energy.
Up and coming,
right?
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, Kim, thank you very much for joining us. This is your hostess with the mostest, Renita Knight Lundy, and we want to say to you, Tallahassee, thank you for listening in. We ask you to be safe, be healthy, and always stay happy. Have a wonderful evening and be safe going home. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We made it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye-bye.